accogliamo con un grande applauso Jack Cambria.
Meraviglioso, ma come non ti accorgi di quanto il mondo sia meraviglioso.
Buongiorno, bell'anno!
Hello. Buongiorno. I had first met Francesca Del Nero back in March of 2018, introduced by a mutual friend, Laura Gustella, who I had met in Rome 2 years earlier. We had met in a New York City restaurant, Italian of course, and as we started to speak, Francesca told me about her life, and she told me about the life of her daughter, Virginia, whose life was cut short at a very young age. She told me that Virginia had many dreams that she would now no longer be able to realize, thus the inspiration for her venue each year, Dreams Day. She then posed 3 questions to me. She said to me, who is Jack Cambria? What has he learned about life? And who are his teachers? My name is Jack Cambria, and I'm very honored to be with you all today. Thank you. Grazie.
You know that it has been such an incredible moment knowing you, but most feeling you. Feeling you as a human being, so deep, so true.
Grazie.
So authentic.
Francesca, grazie.
Yeah, no, thanks to you, really. So, what do you do for a living, generally?
Well, now I teach. I just retired 4 years ago from the New York City Police Department, where my last 14 years, I was the commander of the hostage negotiation team. Before that, I was with the tactical team. You might know it as SWAT here. And then in between that, I would do patrol work. But it was my last 14 years, I think, that made me realize there's a higher calling, and to get involved with some people who maybe are in crisis and need help. So Giorgio, this morning, he resonated with me and what his story was, because for many, Giordano, grazie. Scusi, Giordano, scusi. But these are the individuals who are broken inside, and I would face almost 2 or 3 times per week, and trying to rearrange their thinking process from what they wanted it to be to what I wanted it to be, which of course is to come in from the ledge, so to speak. So his story resonated with me, and I had a lot of compassion in hearing his story. You know, a lot of people who contemplate suicide, they have something called constrictive thinking, meaning that they cannot consider any other options except maybe commit suicide. Well, they consider 2 options. One is that they can live with that deep turmoil and emotional pain, or 2, they can die and be free of that pain. So I try to offer a third alternative, which is to give life a second chance. You know, suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. It's a problem now, yes, but maybe tomorrow, no. So let me try to buy you 24 hours where I can get you to the mental health professionals that can help change your mind. So New York City, as everybody knows, is a great metropolis. We have population is over 8.5 million people. On any given day, there's an additional 4 million people that come into the city for work, for business, they vacation. So every day is 12.5 million people in New York City. So the hostage negotiation team was very busy. We averaged about 45 assignments per month. And a large majority of that were mental health issues, people who are emotionally disturbed, mentally ill, and contemplating suicide. So this happened very often. So in the video we saw one picture of a man on top of the bridge, yeah. A man on top of a building. And this was just one incident. That was on Times Square, one of the busiest intersections in all the world. And this is where he winds up, where traffic was stopped, pedestrian traffic was stopped. And that went about 3 hours, speaking to the man. And finally, thank goodness, we had an intervention, and we were able to bring him back onto the rooftop and got him the help that he needed.
What did you feel? What did you feel when you succeeded?
That's an interesting question, Francesca. So it's a thankless job, I will tell you this. So nobody ever says thank you for this, but nobody says thank you.
Really?
No, actually they're angry with you. They are angry with you because you're interfering with their plans. Yeah, and I'm interrupting their plan, so they are angry. So therefore, there's no thank you. But that's okay. It's okay. That's not why we do this kind of work. Why police officers do what they do. It's a self-reward that we receive. We know what we do, and that's the self-gratification in itself. So even though it's a thankless job from those that we intervene with, again, we know that maybe we saved a life this day, and hopefully they will move on with their lives.
Of course. Did you ever meet some of them afterwards?
On just a couple of occasions. Also included in that group of suicidal individuals are sometimes police officers who have moments of turmoil and issues. And with those individuals, yes, I would see them again. And they thank me. They come back and say thank you. Yeah, afterwards. You know, a theme this morning, a couple of your guests had mentioned, and your guests are amazing, I got to tell you. I wish I had the opportunity to know them all better, because they would surely be my teachers, for sure. But
We are the teacher of each other.
see, yes. So a common theme that I heard a couple times this morning, and something that I institute in my training. So I do many different types of training. One of the trainings that I do is hostage negotiation training, still, for police officers around the U.S., and I do some corporate training as well. In fact, two dear friends of mine in the audience now run a school called the International School of Negotiation, Gianna and Victoria, and they're in the audience today, and I teach sometimes for them as well. But I always ask a question in the morning of the first day of the training, and the question is, who in the audience has never had a problem? So if I can ask this audience, then nobody would be able to raise their hand, because we all know problems. And by understanding that we all have problems in our past, even maybe right now, we can then empathize, empathika, and have compassion for those that we now are interacting with.
I remember, I don't know why, I asked you about who were your masters, you know? It was so, natural for me asking you this question. So can you answer now for the audience?
Yeah. For me, masters are teachers. They teach us.
Yeah.
And I have had so many people from the street, people that you would ordinarily not consider as a teacher. So from homeless people. If I can say a quick story.
Yes, of
Very
course.
quick story. My very first arrest that I made in the police department, it was 1982. And it was I was returning from court. I was coming out of the subway, and the clerk at the subway says to me, "Hey, officer, there's a homeless man just went onto the platform, didn't pay his fare." I was so new, I was not even sure what to do, but I said, "Okay, I will take care of it." And I entered onto the platform, and I was very firm with him. I said, "You did not pay your fare. You must leave the subway now." And he was a man of the streets. He was very wise. And he said to me, okay, officer, I will leave. So I said, that's right. I wasn't prepared for that. So he left, and as we were walking to the exit, he had a satchel over his bag. And I was concerned about weapons. So I said to him, very strong as well, what do you have in the bag? And he says to me, in the bag, I have a manuscript of a play that I wrote. And I said to him, okay, tell me about your play. And he says, it's autobiographical. It's about my life. And if you can envision a basket of crabs, it's called Crabs in the Basket. If you can envision a basket full of crabs, you will notice that every time one of those crabs gets to the top of the basket to try to get out, another crab comes from behind and pulls it back down. So it's about my life, he said. Every time I try to get out of this hole, I always find myself in some force always comes along and keeps me down. So it was about this time, we were about to exit the subway, and I said to him, sir. Now I call him sir. You do not have to. Yeah, I changed my mind in 2 minutes. He changed my mind in 2 minutes. And I said to him, sir, you don't have to leave the subway. No. Grazie. But I felt I owed him that. For that very powerful life lesson, he taught me that in the space of 2 minutes, from what he was in my mind, my narrow way of thinking, my narrow mind, to a homeless guy, to now a playwright. And I said the last thing to him was, just, I hope to see your play on Broadway someday. And I've been looking for it for the last almost 40 years now. So the training point here is, folks, that just because someone is down in their luck does not mean they are bad. They deserve our empathy, our compassion.
So this these are really wonderful lessons, you know. Lessons. And so your is incredible, like your job, leaving your job made you changing as a human being.
Yes, it taught me mostly that mistakes should not define people. Rather, mistakes should teach you. So we should not be defined by our mistakes, but they should teach us. I have learned from the best of the best. And I have learned from the worst of the worst. And from them I have learned what not to do. I have learned from the best people, when they come to a scene, they just make things better. And I aspire to be like those people. They would just make things better by their presence. They would be a calming tone, calming voice, and in the midst of all chaos and confusion and anger and frustration, they would make things better. So I said, I want to be like those guys.
Incredible.
Ah.
So this is really the power of listening.
It's essential. You know, most people don't listen to understand. Most people listen to reply. And that's not listening.
That's not listening.
Yeah. There's a difference between hearing and listening. So hearing is passive. When we're in an office or a room, if we sit very quiet, we hear the air conditioning vent, we hear people walking outside. But that's not listening. Listening is you must participate in the process of listening to truly listen, to hear what people are saying, and understanding the emotions behind what they are saying as well.
And also, when we really listen, we can abandon the old prejudices, right?
Exactly. When we listen, we can listen 4 times faster than people can speak. So while people are speaking to us, we're already processing that rebuttal. Yeah, but
Ready to say but.
yes, and that is not listening. So we have to, silence that inner chatter and truly listen. Because people appreciate when we truly listen. They feel validated that you are caring enough to listen to what they have to say. In hostage negotiation work, we have something called an 80-20 rule. 80-20. That's 80% listening by the negotiator and only 20% talking. If it was the other way around, then if we were doing all the talking, we would not be able to identify what the issues are and why are we here today. So it's critical that the negotiator, anybody, truly listens when people are speaking.
Also because in fact we negotiate every day, every single moment. It's not something that is related to business. It's every day we negotiate. Daughter with mother, daughter with father, in the couple.
You go into the supermarket, you're negotiating a spot on the line, or it's all around us. And what we learn to do, and what I try to teach, is conflict resolution, de-escalation strategies. We all know conflict in our lives.
Yes, of course.
Every day around us, conflict. And conflict equals stress. When there is conflict, there is stress on both sides. And there are 3 basic responses to conflict. There's fight. Now, I don't necessarily mean a fist fight, but an argument.
Yes, of course.
There's flight. I don't want to deal with you anymore. I'm leaving. And then there's freeze. You are perplexed. You don't know how to respond. So fight, flight, or freeze. I would suggest a 4th response to conflict.
I love it.
The 4th response to stress or conflict should be face. Confront the conflict through communication. So, for example, Francesca, you seem upset with me today. I'm sorry. Please, tell me why you're upset. And let's try to figure this out.
Yes.
And if I'm the reason you're upset, you think I'd want to know about that? Yeah, I would. Oh my goodness, Francesca, please let me explain why I said what I said or why I did what I did. And this starts the process. I'm validating your feelings, that you have a reason to be upset. And then we have a discussion and we will hopefully find a resolution.
It seems like it is an easy process, okay? But it's not at all.
No, it's not. It's not. It does not.
I know, but it's a big resolution in relationships.
Yeah.
Big resolution.
And you used the word process. It is a process.
It's a process.
And it's a process about lowering emotion. You know, whenever emotion is high, then rationality is low. And whenever we make a decision in high emotion, then oftentimes it's a wrong decision because we're making it in emotion.
Yes.
So as negotiators, what we are trained to do is try to manage that emotion. It's a process, different for everybody. We're trying to lower that. And then by default, if we can do that, lower the emotion, by default, the rational side will come up where we can now offer options that they may consider and maybe even accept. So...
What message would you like to give to those who feel lost?
So, for those that feel lost, and we all have been there,
Yes, of course.
that there is hope. You know, and sometimes we don't see that in our emotional pain and turmoil that we are experiencing at that moment. But through communication and people who care enough to listen to you, there are solutions. And just, be willing to open up to people who can help you. You know, Giordano said earlier, he says this, and I love what he said. In fact, I'm going to use that now in my training. He said, it's much easier to hide your emotions and make believe you're happy than to try to explain to people why you are sad. And that is such a true statement. But people don't want to sometimes reveal themselves. So it's important that they do.
So the last question is, and to those who have the dream, the fire to do good for others, what would you like to say to them?
I think that's an easy one for me. Follow your dream. You must follow your dream. There must be hope, and follow your dream. Even if you fail, at least you know you tried. You know, just to finish one thought, many years ago, I was involved with the martial arts, jiu-jitsu, the ancient Chinese art of the martial arts. And in the dojo, they had a saying on the wall, and it said, if you are thrown to the ground 7 times, you must get up 8. And that applies to life. Life throws us every single day, but the important point is to keep getting up and move forward and to follow your dreams.
Thank you.
Grazie. Grazie.
Jack è venuto apposta da New York per fare questa conversazione e regalarci questo momento, quindi un altro applauso se lo merita proprio.